Hey folks, welcome back to the Portable Gamer, welcome back to Farming Simulator 2017, and welcome back to Maplewood. Welcome to the disgruntled farmer. Let's get going, and I will tell you what's going on. Sorry, you lost me right there. I had to duck down to grab my flight stick. It has been, man, I don't even know what to tell you. In fact, we're not going to use that. We're just going to go manual. We'll do it live. Let me tell you, it is 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I started this morning at 7. Hey! And almost immediately, I noticed that I couldn't get Shadowplay to work in Farm Sim. It's the craziest thing. It would record for literally 1 second and then it would turn off. I was befuddled. So I started experimenting with all kinds of different things, and I was checking threads, and I was going on Reddit, and I was doing everything I could to figure out what is the problem here. And I finally, I reloaded GeForce Experience, which is the NVIDIA program that sort of controls Shadowplay. No luck. Same thing. I reinstalled drivers on my graphics card. No luck. I did a DDU on my drivers. No luck. I did another DDU on my drivers and then did a rollback. No luck. And every time I did that, it would require a reinstallation of GeForce Experience. Now, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with GeForce Experience. If you're not familiar with it, essentially it's an advertising program that NVIDIA installs on your machine so they can send you ads for NVIDIA products. And it's sort of cloaked as a way to upload your drivers, to update your drivers. It's disguised as this tool to help you update your drivers, which is really not a very difficult thing to do at all. And it also has Shadowplay on board, which is, it's recording video games for dummies. However, the reason I use it is it actually does work pretty well. It lets me record in 1080p 60 FPS, and there's virtually no hit on your frame rate. Like right now we're in action and we're losing about 20 FPS. If we were recording in Shadowplay, 0. We'd be over 60 FPS without breaking a sweat. So it's good in that way, but it really is, it's a dumbed down plug and play game recording technology. I used to be in OBS, you know that. I started recording in OBS, and I was actually doing pretty good with it. And then something changed. Either either OBS updated, or something broke. I don't know. But OBS, if you're not familiar with that, it's like the complete opposite of Shadowplay. It's got about 1 billion settings, and each of them affects everything else, of course. And it's nothing you can really go online and look up ideal settings. I mean, you can find a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, man, you got to set it up like this. But they're talking about how they set it up for their system and the games that they're recording. So as many different websites as I went to, as many different Reddit pages as I went to, and uploaded a way to set up OBS, download. You know what I mean. I'm really tired. I'm really, really tired, and I'm just burned out from sitting here for 10 hours. But as many different ways as I found people telling me, oh yeah, this is how you need to set up OBS, it works great. I was never able to get back to a set of settings that allowed me to record as well as I was recording initially when I first used OBS. And even that, realistically, it was good, but it was not great. Honestly, it's not as good as Shadowplay, but I recognize that Shadowplay really is kind of a dumbed down app. It just, for me, it works. It's a good compromise. If I could find something better, I'd use it, but I can't. And I really don't like the GeForce Experience program. However, I don't think anybody does, so I'm in good company there. So, many reloads, and each of those takes 20 minutes, even with a decent machine and an SSD. All the restarts and downloading drivers and just all of it. It takes a long time. So it was like a couple hours before I finally gave up on that. And then just for kicks, I fired up Euro Truck, and Shadowplay works fine with Euro Truck. So it's like, okay, so this is something specific to Farm Sim. So I take a look online, and there's really, because I'm on a serial number copy, there's really no way to fix, right? Like if you're on a Steam copy, you can verify game file integrity. You can't do that on a serial number copy. That's it. So that means I need to uninstall. So I very carefully back up all my save games and everything, all my input binding, everything, because you know about controller support with Farm Sim. Boy. So I do this very carefully, and I download the game again, and I have to keep putting my serial number in, and it's not that big a file. It's like 3.6 gig, but I was only getting about 1 meg of download speed, and that wasn't me. I've got 15 meg download, so it was no problem. That's just that's how it was coming off their server. But it's a nightmare, man. Everything's taking so long, and I've got a bunch of DLC. I've got the Coon, I've got the Ropa, I've got the Straw Harvest, serial numbers everywhere. I got to keep putting serial numbers in. I get everything reloaded. I get it all fired back up. I drop my save game and my input binding file back in, right? But here's what happened. Yesterday, I went to the bunker and I got my wheel, both my keyboards, right? My big Orion gaming keyboard and my G13 mini panel. And I'm running a flight stick. Basically, I have like 6 controllers because the Orion and the G13 both have joystick capacity, so Farm Sim sees them as... Did I miss the... Oh, this day, man. This day. Hopefully we make it up this hill so I can turn around to go back down the hill. Anyway, I get everything put back in, and the input binding file is completely corrupted because Farm Sim, man, it has the worst controller support. When you plug controllers in, it doesn't see them as controllers, it just gives them a number. But when you turn your machine off, or if you unplug something and plug it back in, when you plug it back in, it will very often give it a different number. So you can plug in a gamepad and a flight stick. You can assign tractor functions to your gamepad and front loader functions to your flight stick. Turn your machine off, unplug them, plug them back in, turn your machine back on, and I swear Farm Sim will load them in a different order and give them different identities. It's crazy making, man. And then on top of that, I have literally thousands of entries in my input binding file because I have so many mods, and each of them requires their own set of bindings, even if they duplicate, right? So if you have a front loader and you've got all your settings assigned, and you put in a mod front loader, it will very often duplicate those. Bottom line, I was effed in the A dry. It was a nightmare. So I had to put all those back in. And it's been nonstop, and it's really got me thinking about console. You know, I'm not actually going to go console, but I do think about it. I mean, for me, ultimately, I didn't need to go around this far. I could have cut through the middle there. For me, ultimately, I'm going to stay on the PC side, but I really do envy I really do envy console gamers because of the simplicity. And I understand that there are some limitations and obviously some things that you can't do with console that you can do on PC, but the simplicity of it, man, you really... Today, I'm envying you. I really am. Ugh. So, I thought about it. I actually thought about trying to get turned around here without... Nope. I thought about uninstalling Farm Sim and just taking a bit of a hiatus until FS17 comes out. I was that frustrated. And I thought about just going to get a console. I thought about just, head over to Best Buy and get a Xbox One X. And there's a couple reasons I didn't. One reason is it's definitely not in the budget for today. Secondly, probably not a good idea. I mean, the console itself is a few $100 plus some games. You know, you're talking $600, $700. Definitely not in the budget. And then on top of that, I downloaded DCS the other day, which is Digital Combat Simulator. And I'm hoping I have this one mapped. I do. Fantastic. Digital Combat Simulator, which is a flight sim. And it's really, really good. But it's one of these flight sims where starting the engine on the aircraft takes 20 minutes. Extremely realistic. And I was thinking that, because I've been sort of practicing in it a little bit in the Mustang trainer. But I was also thinking about having my wheel hooked up again. I've got like 6 race sims, 7, 10 maybe. I don't know. I have like all the race sims. Literally all of them. And even though I've done my best to configure my wheel so that all my settings are the same in every race sim, there are some sims that have different functions than others, and so you don't have the ability to map everything like one-to-one. So even just being in race sims that I've spent a lot of time in yesterday, I was still lost a little bit, you know, the sort of muscle memory. Took me a second to remember where everything was, and even then I was still missing a few things. So then I was thinking about that flight sim, thinking about DCS, and it's like, oh yeah, that's what I need. I need to learn something else. And it's as we get into more realistic sims, and in this context, you know, farm sim that we're playing is really not very realistic at all. I'm talking about something like R Factor 2 or iRacing, where you can spend a lot of time trying to take 1/10 of a second off a lap consistently. Or something like DCS, where it takes weeks, literally like weeks of your life to learn to fly the plane. And even then, you're just keeping it in the air. You're not really adept yet. You're not, you know what I mean? You're not a Jedi. You're just basically learning it. So there are some sims that require a pretty substantial commitment of time to learn them and be good at them. And I think with all the race sims I have, I don't know that I have the mental bandwidth at the moment to learn to fly, because it is kind of a serious commitment. And then as I was thinking about getting a console, it's like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to learn a whole bunch of other games, and thinking about the sims that we play and the amount of, I don't know, commitment, I guess, maybe not the right word, but you know what I mean. You know, I love Cuphead. I really do. But you compare Cuphead to something like The Division or some of the Tomb Raiders, like the new Tomb Raider that came out, and it's really like you gotta think and plan and keep your wits about you. You can't just, you know, The Division is not Cuphead. So I guess that would be another reason why I don't want to go the console route, is I just don't have the mental energy right now to learn to play a bunch of new games. I think I'm kind of maxed out with the ones that I have, because they are, I have to say, pretty complicated, you know? So even the idea of learning to fly right now is maybe not intimidating, but it's like, yep, that's going to take some commitment. So ultimately I did kind of make peace with the day, but it was hit or miss there for a minute. I was really debating. I mean, I wasn't going to throw my gaming system out the window or anything, but I was really considering uninstalling FS17 and just taking a break, taking a little sabbatical from farming till the end of November. But yeah, man, that's a day in the PC life. Doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. So, the end. That's my story. I'm going to load this up a second time, take it back to the BJ and dump it. We'll call it an episode. Feels like Friday, I have to say. I would be more than happy to start the weekend today. And unfortunately, that's not how calendars work. So we'll just knock this out. And now I did yesterday, day before I recorded Herman's Eck. That one went fine. that one worked out great. Something happened in the meantime that broke the connection between Shadowplay and Farm Sim. But you'll see Herman's Eck before you see this, if you're into Farm Sim vids that I record. And yeah, it worked fine. And it could be that it's something that I get resolved, and from here on out it's working fine as well. But at the moment, it is it definitely broke. So we're going to be in action for the moment. And what was the other one that I tried? Flashback as well earlier today, and that's one that I have not tried yet. I've tried Bandicam, I've tried OBS, I've tried there's several others, but I'm telling you, man, that's how I ended up with Shadowplay. I know it's really not that great a program because it comes out of GeForce Experience, but it does work. You know, it does what it's supposed to do, and it's very easy on the FPS. But I think I've tried just about everything. And if you've got any tips on OBS, I'm on a i7 7700 at 2.8, and then I can overclock to 3.8. I've got 16 gig of RAM, DDR4 RAM. I've got GTX 1050, and I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, it's a decent system. It's not a rocket ship, but it's decent. And for the most part, it treats me fine. But for some reason, I just cannot get a good configuration in OBS. I'm on SSD as well. That was something else that I had heard some people say, is that if you're well, I've heard both. I've heard some people say if you're sending to a spinner, it causes nothing but problems, and then I've heard other people say no, a spinner actually works well because it's got like more ability to buffer, and an SSD has a more, I don't know. Man, I found a thread today that said somehow you got your cheat protection kicked in on FS17, and it's like, okay, I appreciate the input, you know, and I'll definitely look into that, but there are several problems with that theory. One is, I don't know that there's cheat protection on Farm Sim. It's not exactly PUBG, and yeah, and then the other thing is, when would that have happened? Because there's been no update for a year, you know, there's been no patch. So when would that have happened? I don't know, man. I don't know. But it's after 5. So as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to pour myself a glass of wine. And there's a football game on tonight. I don't even know who's playing. I just know it's NFL football, and that's enough for me. And yeah, man, I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to call it a gaming day. Wow. It has been... It's been a day. But you know what? And this is when I get that perspective. I'm guessing that somewhere in the world right now, like, shoot, man, I don't know if you follow the news in the U.S., but there was yesterday, Sunday, there's a bunch of people in it's like some kind of stretch limo SUV, and there were 17 people, plus the driver, and they all got killed. The thing like ran a stop sign and hit a parked car. I mean, there were people in the parking lot. Like, they weren't even in this vehicle. There were people just standing in the parking lot that got killed. Two pedestrians and 18 people, and 4 sisters. And I think, you know what? I'm guessing there's some people planning funerals today. And if they had a choice between planning funerals, good grief, planning a funeral, how about planning 4 funerals? And if they had a choice between planning 4 funerals or trying to sort out an issue with their video game recorder, I would think they would probably go with the latter, you know, and have their kids back. So it's, you know, it's easy to whine. It's easy to kind of get yourself wound up about things that don't matter. But ultimately, once you get the problem solved and look back on it, or at least I do. I'm you know, won't speak for anybody but myself, but once I get the problem solved and look back on how frustrated it was, it's almost a little, not embarrassing, but it's like, got to keep your wits about you, man, because your bad day is a lot better than somebody else's bad day. So, anyway, there you go. Full circle. I've talked myself in off the ledge. All right, we'll get this dumped, and now we did, I don't know if you saw when we drove past it, but we did get those other meadows that we were converting to crop grass. We did get those all done. I finished them last night, game night, in the dark, because we had to get that cultivator with the grass seeding function. We had to get that taken back before we kept it for the night and ended up spending a lot of extra money on it. So we're going to make silage, and I think at this point, I mean, I've thought about getting another baler, but it's not worth it right now because we're done with grass for first cut. We're not going to be baling any, so it doesn't make any sense to rent one. It would literally be cheaper to just buy bales. But we also need to figure out if it's more cost effective to make silage, sell it, and buy bales, or does it make more sense to run the baler? It's fun, you know, it's definitely fun to run the baler, but I don't know if it's always cost effective. So there we go. That is empty. I'm going to park this thing up. There we go. Shut her down. So let's hop out here. There you go. Folks, thanks for stopping back to check out the Portable Gamer. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Farming Simulator 2017 from Maplewood Farm, and we will see you next time. Take care now.